Welcome to Grew with Portia, the podcast that uncovers the hidden treasures within grief. I'm your host, Portia the producer, and I'm inviting you to join me on a transformative journey where we will exchange laughter, of course the best medicine of them all. Reflect on cherished memories. Remember that time that the little boy grabbed my hand instead of his mother's at the amusement park? Yikes. And of course, discover gratitude while navigating one of life's hardest challenges, loss. So get ready to grow with me, Portia the producer. Let's dive in. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Groove with Portia. I am your host, Portia Booker, and as always, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to keep it with the latest and greatest of all with Groove with Portia. So one of the things that maybe most of you don't know is whenever I travel, one movie that I watch all the time whenever I travel is Hocus Pocus. That is my favorite movie of all time. And the reason being, number one, there's a connection with my mom because my mom raised us on Disney movies, but also that movie reminds me to let my inner kid out, right? And so how many of us are holding on to that inner 9-year-old, that inner 17-year-old that we're continuing to suppress to appease people around us who don't really see us, both people who are here physically and those who have transitioned. Let that sink in. So today I'm joined by an amazing woman. She is the founder of The Witch's Inn. We were introduced through one of the podcasts that I produce called Affirm That Somehow I Thrive, hosted by Jennifer Rogers. And she's just an overall amazing human being. So welcome to Grow with Portia, that witch Karena. Karena, how are you today?
I am so good. Thank you, Portia, for having me here.
Karena, you know me, every day is great that ends in Y. And Karena, I know one of the things that we kind of talked about a little bit after we recorded Jennifer's episode with you is kind of the shared thread that we have, which is the transition of our moms. And one of the things I know about you, Karena, is that your parents allowed you to explore both religion, the paranormal, witchcraft, right? And for many people, that's like a no-no, right? And I'm curious for our audience today, Karena, first, what was your mom's name? And also, what are some permissions that you've granted yourself to be fully authentic that you've been holding back now that your mom has transitioned, or things that you're still holding on to because of her transition?
Oh, okay. We're going deep quick. I like it, Portia. I love it. Okay. Well, my mother's name was Charlene. And so she went by Char. And I would say it's you know what? It's very interesting. I think there's I'm in a moment of transition right now in my life. I mean, I'm a Scorpio, so I'm always in a moment of transition if you
Wait.
ever have me back here, okay? But like it's this what I the permission that I have granted myself is this idea that like we don't have to hold grief forever, right? Like grief can come and visit us, but we don't have to like be in the grief. And something that I'm also holding on to within that is that I know my mother would be like, no, you need to grieve me like hard, hard for the rest of your life. Like, you know, but there was this like, I don't know, it was interesting. Last night I was sitting and I was journaling. And this year is a hard time of year for me because my mom began she had cancer, so she began her transition well before this time. However, it was January 10th that my mother, we kind of got that like final, okay, we're not doing treatment. You're gonna have to be in like palliative hospice now. You know, this is we're near the end. Okay, you're gonna be lucky if you have 3 weeks, let alone however long, right? Um, and so my mom passed away February 28th, and her birthday is March 5th. So it's a very like everything kind of very quickly happened around this time. And we're coming up on her what 8 years, I think 8 years since she's been gone. And January 10th this year came and went. And I don't want to talk too much about it right here, but like I went and did this thing, and now the benchmark for January 10th is going to mean something different to me than what it meant like when she was transitioning. And again, it's that moment of like, oh yeah, like this day can hold two meanings at the same time, but like it doesn't have to be like all consuming on like what it used to mean for me. And so that's what I mean about like holding on to grief and allowing it to visit us, but then like being like, oh, thank you for being here, and then letting go.
So essentially, Karina, you've alchemized the day. You've
Mhm.
alchemized that notion of this has been associated with Char's news of she's only going to be here for however many weeks, right? You're
Mhm.
holding space still for the grief of yearning that closeness, right?
Mhm.
That relationship, but you're also transitioning it into a
Mhm.
day possibly of celebration, whatever that may look like. And I
Yeah.
think that's the beauty, right? Karina, in grief is that so many people become, I hate to say it, a prisoner of the
Mhm.
story of when their loved one transitioned, right? But they forget all the other stories that made them who they were, that left that
Mhm.
imprint on our hearts forever.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I think you like summarize that like so beautifully, and like absolutely that like I love that piece that you said around that like prisoner of grief, right? A lot of times people like we should grieve. We should be allowed, and like, there's not really any timeline. But yeah, when it becomes that place of like all consuming and like this is it, where it's like, yeah, we don't need to be there anymore. Like, and that's okay. Like we can let that go. That memory, that person, those other spaces don't leave us just because we're letting go of some of that like maybe anguish that feels good to hang on to sometimes, like in
Right.
grief. Yeah.
Right. I mean,
Yeah.
it essentially becomes, I love to describe it, Karina. You know, when you're under those heavy weighted blankets to help you sleep, you know how people do
Mm.
that? It's kind of
Mm-hmm.
the same thing. You become comfortable in that,
Mm-hmm.
just like sitting in a diaper that needs to be changed. You
Mm-hmm.
become consumed with that comfortable, and that becomes your identity,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Absolutely.
And
Yes.
sometimes to me, you need to sit through that
Mm-hmm.
until something reminds you of the beauty and the richness of how that person in your life left an imprint on you,
Mm-hmm.
how they encouraged you when nobody else did, right? The
Mm-hmm.
things that they didn't do, right? That
Mm-hmm.
also made you, a better person. January holds a special time for me also. My mom's birthday is January the 16th,
Mm.
and she would have been 73 this year. And this year marks 4 years of her transition on 7/7/22. And so
Mm-hmm.
I can relate, with
Mm-hmm.
how certain dates, I'm curious, Karina, how do you keep in contact with Shar? Does she come to you through tarot? What's her way of letting you know, hey, Karina, don't forget to greet me today? Laugh.
Okay, so I have to say, like with my mom, I have to set a little bit more of like intentional time to actually kind of like be with my mother. Like I wouldn't say that she doesn't come to me. I have two nieces, and my one niece never met her, right? She's only 6 years old, so she was gone before. But she is like sometimes the way that like she has these certain looks where I'm like, "Oh my God, like how do you look like your nana or or my mom? Like how are you like even like speaking to me in like the same tone, the same mannerisms? Like obviously, like, I guess my sister and I, we have that within us. Like, we're just not seeing it within us. But, like, she'll just come out, like, and I'm just like, what? So, in those moments, I'm like, okay, here she is. Like, she wants to be remembered. I do sit down and I'll intentionally, like, pull tarot in order to, like, speak to my mom. And then dreams. My mom comes through a lot in my dreams where, it's usually this place where I'm needing to like stand a little bit more firm in my boundaries, and my mother will come in my dream, and I'm like, "Oh, okay, like yeah, this is a moment where I'm escaping myself. Like I'm not actually like being true to myself." And so my mom is there to be like, "No, no, 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 no. You need to make sure that you're being true to yourself for sure." Yeah.
Oh, we're the same, Karina. Like my mom will come to me and she has in dreams. I remember last year around her transition anniversary, I
Mm.
was laying in the bed because I'm sleeping in the same room where her ashes are, both her and my dad's.
Hmm.
And I remember hearing her call me, Portia. Literally, I jumped out of that bed so quick. I'm like, and I remember crying because I could hear her clear as
Hmm.
day. And then I could also smell her cologne. And mind
Hmm.
you, her cologne hasn't been sprayed. Like every blue moon, when I'm going out and wanting to be a little bad, then I wear it. But we're not gonna go there today. my mom's One of my mom's famous sayings, Karina, was when I get young and dangerous. I want to be
Yeah,
young and dangerous. So when I want to be young and dangerous, then I'll put on her cologne.
I
But
love that.
no, that's for a whole nother day, a whole nother story.
I love it.
Karina, one thing that I'm really fascinated by is this creation. We're going to pivot a little bit here
Hmm.
of the witch's inn.
Hmm.
Please tell us. I should have worn my shirt that says "Witch Please." I found it at Walmart after Halloween last year
Yeah,
for I think $2, and I couldn't pass it up because, like I told you,
yeah.
Hocus Pocus is my favorite movie. I can recite it line for line. I can sing it, you name it. I'm curious, what was the inspiration behind The Witches Inn and those who are engaged in The Witches Inn?
Hmm.
What is their experience and what can others who are interested gain from the Witches Inn community?
Hmm. So the Witch's Inn was born, out of this aspect of literally sitting in my mother's hospice room and just being in this place where I was like, I'm gonna need something to keep me connected to her. Like I'm gonna need something that actually like isn't just this moment right now, but like you said, those moments where it felt really good. And something like regardless of how my mother and I's relationship was like we could really connect on spirituality. And like so I was like, okay, so that's where it's kind of like the seed was planted. And then when my dad was passing away, that's when I really was like, you know what? My business is called The Witches Inn. And it is a double entendre because one, I want women to know that they are allowed to embrace their inner witch, right? How many times have we been called like, "Ooh, you're a witch." Like, "Ooh, you're nasty." Like, "You're this, you're that," right? And it's like, "Yep, I am." Like, you right? You can get me on my good day, or if you're gonna make it a bad day, I'll make it a bad day for you too, right? Like we alchemize in that way. But also this place where I wanted, when I hear the words "the witch is in," I think about this like really warm, inviting kind of like house that's going to like kind of like usher you in. Like you're not even like you're gonna be like, wait, what is this place? Like I wanna like look around and like see the little different trinkets and explore and get curious. And there might be this like woman sitting there like stirring a pot or brewing tea or I don't know, weaving something, right? Where people are just like, wow, like this feels like I don't have to rush. This feels like I just get to be and sit and like alchemize, like really truly like allow myself to feel what needs to be felt. And so when people are coming to visit me right now, it is a lot of virtual, which I love. This is going to be transitioning a little bit more in 2026, but it's a place where like someone can come and sit for tarot and be like, I just want to be validated. Like tell me that I'm okay. Like give me the permission I need to move forward, right? If I'm working with you to help explore and deepen your own intuition through tarot, through learning a little bit of witchcraft, right? And that space where it's like full permission granted. So that's what the witches in is.
And Corinne, I love how you brought up that warmth feeling. I'm immediately jumping into Hocus Pocus when Max, Danny, and Allison go to the Sanderson house, right?
Mhm.
And you see that big pot in the middle. Obviously, it's covered in cobwebs because let's be honest, they've been gone for centuries, right?
Mhm.
And I think about the invitation, right? The curiosity that comes along with whether it's spirituality, religion. And I'm curious, Karena, how has your definition of witch evolved or
Mhm.
even changed from when you were younger and first discovered witchcraft?
Mhm. So, yeah, very much like you, I loved Hocus Pocus. I love Sabrina, right? Like it was this space where I thought that I could like learn how to like snap my fingers or like, cast these spells or, be at a sleepover and play like light as a feather, stiff as a board, light as a feather. And like definitely there is energy alchemy. Like that does happen, right? Like I'm not saying that that doesn't happen, but I think this space of like witchcraft, and again, I see like my nieces and how they like think about witch, right? They're like, well, can't you just do this? Like, can't you just like make this appear out of thin air? And it's like, baby, if we could, we would not be here. But like, that place where, it goes from that mystical, right? Like everything is mystical. And how do I tap into that power to now realizing like, oh, I am the power. I am the power. And like what I decide and how I decide it and how I just like choose to meet life every single day because life is mundane, right? And how I decide that like, no, today's going to be magical and here's why, right? Here's why it's going to be magical. That is like true alchemy to me. And that is like true witchcraft because it allows us to, as you said, change and become the alchemizer instead of looking to outsource that energy.
100%. In my email signature, it says, every day is great that ends in Y. And
Mm-hmm.
it's true. But it took me a little bit of time to adopt that mindset that every day holds a gift, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because every day holds something beautiful. Hence why it's
Mm-hmm.
called what? The present, right?
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of it started, Karena, from my gratitude practice back in 2021 where
Mm-hmm.
I would write three little things of being grateful for air, right? Being grateful for tweezers to pull the whiskers out of my face. Y'all know what I'm talking about. Let's be realistic.
Yeah.
The Whisker Clan loves to hide out rent free, and it's time for eviction notice. Ping. So
Yeah.
you get the gist. But to your point, like being able to really alchemize what each day looks like for you, right? And
Mm-hmm.
also holding space when the day is kind of going like you slip on the banana peel, you fall in, peanut butter that's been sitting there for 9 years. Then you
Mm-hmm.
get attacked by a squirrel, just all the things, right?
Yeah.
But you find the silver lining in the day, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Karena, we're going to be wrapping up here soon. But for our audience who's tuning in, I'm sure there's individuals who want to connect with you, be a part of the Witches In movement. How can they do that? Also, what do you have coming up in 2026 for our audience?
Okay. So you can connect with me on thewitchesin.com, or the easiest way to kind of like find me is that witch Karena on Instagram. Like I'm there. I hang out there. That's like, that's my hub. That's where I am. Now what I'm really, really excited about this year is that I have recently just opened the doors to Tarot Coven. And so what that is that we're meeting on the full moon just to do like a Reiki cleanse and meditation. You do nothing that day. You just receive that day, okay? And then we do a new moon workshop where we go through some tarot cards. You get into who you are. It's a very like light way to learn tarot or deepen your tarot practice, but then also like meet yourself as the alchemizer and join a community that's just like fun. Like family, people, like friendships are forged like in the communities that I hold. And then I'm starting as well this year the Devoted Woman Collective. And this is that place where like not everyone wants to identify as witch, but they can identify with this place where it's like, yeah, I want to devote deeper to me. So my Become the Witch program has now become the Devoted Woman. And that is literally where I teach you like nervous system regulation and really making that like everyday mundane super, super magical.
So, for our audience who's tuning in, as Karena mentioned, You can find the witches in her on Instagram, that witch Karena. If you forget, don't forget to type in your spell of that witch Karena in Google, and I'm sure that you will find her. Well, everybody, on this episode of Grew Portia today, you heard from that witch Karena. And that concludes our conversation for today. And until next time, everybody, stay magical and peace and hair grease, everyone.